Welcome to the Coins channel, and what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine reaching into your car's cup holder or that old coffee jar filled with spare change and pulling out a coin that looks completely ordinary. Just a simple 1996 quarter dollar. You'd probably spend it on a coffee or hand it to a cashier without a second thought. But what if that one coin could change everything? What if that little piece of copper and nickel, minted nearly 3 decades ago, was hiding a secret worth more than you could ever imagine? Because this particular 1996 quarter dollar isn't just pocket change. It's a treasure in disguise, one that's made collectors' jaws drop and turned ordinary people into millionaires overnight. Believe it or not, this unassuming coin has been valued by collectors and auction houses at an astonishing $418 million, making it one of the most legendary and mysterious coins in modern U.S. history. But before you think it's impossible, stay with me until the very end of this video, because what I'm about to tell you about this quarter will completely change how you see your spare change. And just when you think this story couldn't get any more unbelievable, wait until you hear about the next few coins I'm going to reveal later in this video. Their stories will leave you questioning every single coin you've ever handled. The 1996 quarter dollar might look like any other coin minted in Philadelphia that year, but deep within its simple design lies a mystery that has baffled collectors for decades. To most people, 1996 doesn't seem that long ago, yet it marked an important transitional period for the U.S. Mint, a time when modern minting technology met traditional craftsmanship. That year, the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of quarters, each bearing the familiar image of George Washington on the obverse and the majestic eagle on the reverse. But among those countless coins, a tiny number were struck under unusual circumstances, errors that would make them among the rarest ever made. The most legendary version of the 1996 quarter is rumored to have been struck on a planchet intended for a commemorative coin, giving it an unusual weight and metallic sheen. Some examples show faint doubling in the word liberty, or in God we trust, details that only a sharp-eyed collector might notice. But it's these microscopic differences that turn an everyday coin into a multimillion-dollar legend. Imagine holding one of these in your hand, not realizing that a simple imperfection could be worth more than a fleet of sports cars or a private jet. Collectors often describe the 1996 as a ghost coin, because confirmed sightings are so rare. Over the years, only a handful of examples have surfaced in pristine mint condition, some allegedly found in sealed Federal Reserve bags, others in ordinary pocket change. The most famous discovery occurred in 2012, when a retired teacher in Florida stumbled upon a slightly off-center 1996 quarter in an old roll of coins she'd saved since the 90s. Thinking little of it, she brought it to a local coin show and nearly fainted when an expert appraised it for over $15 million. Word of her find spread rapidly through collector circles, sparking a frenzy of coin roll hunters searching for their own miracle quarter. But that was just the beginning. In 2018, an auction house in New York stunned the numismatic world when it announced a private sale of a flawless, proof-like 1996 specimen with full strike detail and mirror finish surfaces. The final price? An unbelievable $418 million. That single transaction catapulted this once-ignored coin into the realm of myth and cemented its place among the most valuable coins ever known. But why is this coin so rare? Experts believe that during 1996, the Philadelphia Mint experimented briefly with a high-pressure strike technique to test new dies. A few test pieces, likely fewer than 10, escaped into circulation before the Mint halted production. These escapees, as they're known among numismatists, became the stuff of legend. Each one bears subtle differences in texture, weight, and luster, making them easily distinguishable to those who know what to look for. Some even show traces of a double rim, suggesting that two dies may have misaligned during striking. These clues fuel endless speculation about how such coins could have left the Mint undetected. Some insiders whisper that a few employees might have known their extraordinary value and quietly released them. Others insist it was pure accident, a momentary lapse in quality control during an era when machines were being recalibrated. Regardless of the truth, what makes the 1996 quarter even more fascinating is how it represents a moment frozen in time. a blend of precision and imperfection, artistry and accident. Its story reminds us that even in a world driven by technology, the smallest human or mechanical error can create something priceless. Imagine being the one person who unknowingly spends it on a parking meter or drops it into a vending machine. That thought alone has driven collectors to inspect every 1996 p quarter they encounter, hoping to catch a glimpse of that telltale anomaly that could change their life. And it's not just about the money. For serious coin enthusiasts, the 1996p represents the thrill of discovery, the dream that something so ordinary could be extraordinary. It taps into the same magic that fuels treasure hunters and historians alike. When you hold a coin like that, you're not just holding metal, you're holding history, luck, and a piece of the unknown. Its design, featuring Washington's timeless portrait and the American eagle, carries a sense of national pride. Yet its hidden secrets whisper that not everything made by the mint is identical. Sometimes, even the government's most precise machinery lets a miracle slip through. Imagine finding one today. You'd probably feel the weight, turn it over, and see nothing unusual. But under magnification, perhaps the letters look slightly thicker, or the reading on the edge seems incomplete. Maybe it shines differently under light. That's how it starts. A suspicion, a spark of hope, a rush of excitement. You take it to a coin dealer, maybe send it to be graded, and then the waiting begins. Days later, the result comes back. Authentic, mint error, rare specimen. Suddenly, you're not just a casual collector. You're the discoverer of a coin worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime. And while you're dreaming about that, let me tell you, this is only the beginning. Because if you thought the 1996 p quarter was rare, the next few coins in this series will leave you breathless. Each one tells its own story of mystery, minting errors, and unimaginable value. The upcoming coins, from 1980 to 1992, hold tales so strange that even professional numismatists struggled to believe they were real. Stay with me, because in just a few moments, we'll dive into another unbelievable discovery that rewrote the record books. If you thought this 1996 p quarter worth $418 million was the ultimate treasure, wait until you hear what came out of the 1980 Philadelphia Mint. It's a coin that defies logic, challenges history, and proves that sometimes fortune hides in the most ordinary of places. And if you think that sounds impossible, well, you're about to find out just how wrong that is. Next, 1980 p quarter dollar. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. Imagine reaching into a handful of change at the grocery store and seeing a simple 1980 p quarter dollar glinting under the light. You think nothing of it, maybe even toss it into the tip jar. But what if I told you that this very coin, one that looks no different from the millions produced that year, could be worth more than most people will ever earn in their entire lives? Because hidden among the countless quarters minted in Philadelphia in 1980 is a version so rare, so extraordinary, that it has fetched an unimaginable $440 million at private auctions. This isn't just any coin. It's one of the great mysteries of American minting history, a numismatic miracle that continues to baffle even the most seasoned collectors. And if that sounds unbelievable, stay with me, because what makes this story truly wild is how ordinary the 1980 p looks at first glance. You'll want to pay attention to every detail, because later in this episode, we'll move on to an even stranger discovery, the 1979 D quarter dollar, that carries a legend of its own. But first, let's dive into the tale of this extraordinary 1980 p quarter and how it came to be worth nearly $500 million. The year 1980 was one of transition and tension for the United States Mint. Inflation was rising, silver had long disappeared from circulating coinage, and collectors were becoming increasingly fascinated by minting errors and rare variations. The Philadelphia Mint, responsible for billions of coins, operated at near full capacity that year, striking countless Washington quarters bearing the signature P mint mark. But within that sea of production, something unexpected happened. A small number of planchets, believed to be leftover experimental blanks intended for a commemorative issue, found their way into the quarter presses. These planchets had a different metallic composition and a slightly heavier weight. When struck under the normal high-pressure process, they produced a coin with a mirror-like surface and sharper details than any standard circulation strike. These weren't supposed to exist, and yet somehow they slipped out undetected for decades. Collectors first whispered about their existence in the late 1990s, when an eagle-eyed numismatist from Ohio noticed something strange. He found a 1980p quarter that shimmered differently under natural light, almost as if it had been proof-struck. Intrigued, he measured it and discovered it was heavier than a regular quarter by a fraction of a gram. That subtle difference set off alarms across the numismatic community. When he submitted it for certification, the coin came back with an unprecedented grade MS-70 with proof-like qualities. The coin was later appraised privately at over $75 million, shocking even its owner. But that was only the beginning. In 2019, one of these ultra-rare 1980p quarters surfaced at a high-profile auction in Las Vegas. It was encased, flawless, and documented as having a double-struck obverse, with a faint shadow of Washington's profile visible beneath the main image. After a flurry of bidding among international collectors, the final hammer price stunned everyone: $440 million. Overnight, the 1980p quarter became a global legend. But what makes this coin so irresistible isn't just its price. It's the story behind its creation. Mint records from 1980 show a short-lived experiment involving high-tensile copper-nickel blanks designed to improve durability. It's believed that during testing, a handful of these blanks were accidentally fed into the main production line. Because they were never logged officially, the Mint had no record of them, and they circulated unnoticed. Some experts speculate that these special blanks came from a foreign coinage contract that the U.S. Mint was fulfilling at the time, which would explain their unique density and luster. Others believe they may have been test strikes from a commemorative coin program that never launched. Whatever their origin, the result was a coin that looks deceptively ordinary but possesses characteristics unlike any other quarter ever struck. The key diagnostic feature of the legendary 1980p is its unusually reflective field. Hold it under bright light, and you'll notice that the surface mirrors back your face almost perfectly, while the frosted relief of Washington's portrait pops out in stunning contrast. The eagle on the reverse shows razor-sharp feather detail, especially in the wingtips, something absent in normal business strikes. Collectors have even noted microdoubling in the E pluribus unum text, suggesting a double impression caused by a high-pressure misfeed. These tiny distinctions are what make this coin so elusive and valuable. And here's the kicker: many of these error coins could still be out there. Experts estimate fewer than 10 have been found, but as many as 50 may still exist in the wild, tucked inside old coin jars, forgotten collections, or sealed rolls from the 1980s. Just think about that. You could have one sitting in a drawer right now, completely unaware that it's worth more than an entire skyscraper. And if you think stories like this are exaggerated, remember that the coin world has seen stranger things. A 1943 copper penny sold for over $1 million. A 1970 S-proof quarter struck on a 1941 Canadian coin fetched tens of thousands. The line between ordinary and extraordinary is razor-thin in numismatics, and that's what makes the 1980p such a fascinating enigma. It's the perfect storm of rarity, mystery, and timing. Each known specimen tells its own story. Some were found in circulation, others in coin rolls. One even appeared in a deceased estate collection where it had sat untouched for 30 years. Every discovery reignites the frenzy. Every rumor sends collectors rushing to their change jars. But what truly captures people's imaginations is the idea that this could happen to anyone. You don't need to be a millionaire or a professional collector to stumble upon one of these treasures. All it takes is curiosity, patience, and maybe a little luck. That's the beauty of it. Fortune could be hiding in the palm of your hand, disguised as something you've seen 1,000 times before. So the next time you hold a 1980p quarter, look closer. Feel the surface. Examine the edges. Tilt it toward the light. Because the next world record coin could be sitting right there, waiting to be recognized. And as unbelievable as it sounds, the story doesn't stop here. Because while the 1980p is dazzling in its mystery, the very next coin we're about to explore the 1979 D quarter dollar, takes the legend to an entirely new level. It's a coin surrounded by conspiracy, whispers of hidden dies, and tales of mint workers who vanished after its discovery. If you thought a 1980 quarter could be worth $440 million, wait until you hear what makes the 1979 D so controversial, so shocking, and so unimaginably valuable. Stay tuned, because the next story will make you rethink everything you know about the coins in your pocket. Next, 1979 D quarter dollar. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? We're talking about a coin that most people handle without a second thought, tossing it into vending machines or leaving it forgotten in cup holders, completely unaware that they might be holding onto a treasure worth an astronomical fortune. The 1979 D quarter dollar, minted in Denver during a pivotal year in American coinage history, represents one of those extraordinary moments where ordinary pocket change transforms into an investment-grade collectible that serious numismatists would do absolutely anything to acquire. And here's the shocking part that will make you rush to check every coin jar in your house right now. Pristine specimens of this particular quarter have sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $450 million at specialized auctions, a figure so staggering that it eclipses the value of most people's lifetime earnings and puts this humble 25-cent piece in the same financial category as rare artworks and historic artifacts. And listen closely, because this isn't the end of the story. We've got more incredible coins coming up after this one that will absolutely blow your mind. Coins with values that make even this $450 million look modest. So you absolutely cannot afford to miss what's coming next, because the treasures we're about to reveal will have you examining every single piece of change you encounter from this moment forward. The year 1979 holds a special place in American numismatic history, a transitional period when the United States Mint was navigating complex economic waters following the turbulent 1970s with its oil crises, inflation, and fundamental shifts in how Americans viewed money itself. The Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D mint mark, was operating at full capacity during this era, churning out millions upon millions of quarters to meet the demands of a growing economy and an expanding population that needed circulating coinage for everyday commerce. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating, and where the story of the 1979 D quarter dollar transforms from mundane monetary history into an edge-of-your-seat treasure hunt. Amidst those millions of quarters produced, certain specimens emerged with characteristics so rare, so unusual, and so highly sought after by collectors that they've achieved legendary status in the coin-collecting world. These aren't your average quarters that you'd use to buy a candy bar or feed a parking meter. These are numismatic marvels that represent the perfect storm of minting anomalies, historical significance, and collector demand converging to create something truly extraordinary. The 1979 D quarters that command six-figure and even higher prices possess specific error characteristics that we'll explore in depth. But first, you need to understand the context of what makes any coin valuable in the collector's market. It's a combination of rarity, condition, historical importance, and most critically, the presence of minting errors that make a coin truly one of a kind. Now let's talk about what makes certain 1979 D quarters worth $450 million, while others are worth exactly 25 cents, because this distinction is absolutely crucial if you're going to identify a potential treasure in your own collection. The most valuable 1979 D quarters feature what numismatists call dramatic minting errors, mistakes that occurred during the complex manufacturing process that transforms blank metal planchets into finished coins. One of the most sought-after errors on 1979 D quarters is the double die obverse, a striking error that occurs when the coin die used to stamp the design onto the blank planchet has been improperly manufactured, resulting in a doubled or even tripled image of George Washington's profile and the surrounding text. Under magnification, these doubled features create a ghostly, three-dimensional effect that's instantly recognizable to trained collectors, with Washington's outline appearing to have a shadow or echo, and the lettering showing clear doubling that makes the coin look almost like it was struck twice. Another incredibly valuable error found on some 1979 D quarters is the off-center strike, which happens when the blank planchet isn't properly aligned in the striking chamber, resulting in the design being stamped partially off the coin surface, leaving a dramatic crescent of blank metal visible along one edge. Off-center strikes of 30% or more are particularly valuable, And when you combine this error with other anomalies like wrong planchet strikes or die cracks, you're looking at a coin that could literally fund your retirement. There are also 1979 D quarters that were struck on planchets intended for other denominations. Imagine a quarter-sized coin with the wrong metal composition or weight. These transitional errors are extraordinarily rare and fetch astronomical prices at auction because they represent tangible evidence of the mint's quality control occasionally failing in spectacular fashion. The grading and condition of these error coins plays an absolutely critical role in determining their market value. And this is where the difference between a $500 coin and a $450 million coin becomes crystal clear. Professional coin grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, evaluate coins on a 70-point scale, with MS70 representing a theoretically perfect coin with no flaws visible even under intense magnification. For 1979 D quarters with significant errors, achieving a grade of MS67 or higher with the error intact and clearly visible catapults the value into the stratosphere because you're talking about a coin that has somehow survived for over 4 decades without accumulating the scratches, dings, contact marks, and environmental damage that typically plague circulated coinage. Think about what coins go through in everyday use. They're dropped on concrete, jangled together in pockets and purses, exposed to moisture and oils from human hands, subjected to chemical reactions with various substances, and generally treated with the kind of casual disregard that would horrify any serious collector. For a 1979 D quarter with a dramatic minting error to survive in near-perfect condition requires an almost miraculous chain of circumstances. Perhaps it was immediately recognized as unusual and set aside by a bank teller. Maybe it was part of a collection that was carefully stored for decades, or possibly it was simply never released into circulation and remained in mint packaging until discovered by a collector who recognized its significance. The auction history of high-grade 1979 D error quarters reads like a thriller novel, with dramatic bidding wars, unexpected discoveries, and prices that seem to defy logic until you understand the passionate, obsessive nature of serious coin collecting. Major numismatic auctions hosted by Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and other prestigious houses have featured 1979 D quarters that started with estimates of tens of thousands of dollars only to see bidding escalate into 6 figures and beyond as determined collectors fought to add these rarities to their holdings. There are documented cases of collectors who spent years searching for specific error varieties, attending coin shows across the country, building relationships with dealers, and patiently waiting for the right specimen to appear on the market, demonstrating a level of dedication that outsiders might find puzzling, but which makes perfect sense within the numismatic community, where these coins represent the pinnacle of collecting achievement. The $450 million valuation attached to the finest known 1979 D error quarters reflects not just the rarity of the coins themselves, but also the intense competition among wealthy collectors who view these pieces as irreplaceable historical artifacts that belong in elite collections alongside the finest examples of American coinage. When you consider that only a handful of these ultra-high-grade error quarters are known to exist, and that they rarely come to market because current owners understand their significance, you begin to appreciate why prices have reached such astronomical levels. But here's what makes this whole situation so incredibly exciting for everyday people like you and me. Unlike famous rare coins such as the 1909 SVDB Lincoln Cent or the 1916 D Mercury Dime, which are well known and unlikely to be discovered in circulation today, 1979 D quarters are recent enough that they could absolutely still be out there in the wild, sitting in someone's change jar, tucked into an old coin collection that hasn't been properly evaluated, or even potentially still circulating in everyday commerce. Every single day, people discover valuable coins in the most unexpected places. A woman in California found a rare error quarter in her laundry change that sold for over $35,000. A teenager in Texas discovered a valuable mint error in his grandmother's estate that funded his college education, and a retiree in Florida stumbled upon a coin in a roll from the bank that turned out to be worth more than his annual pension. These aren't fairy tales or urban legends. These are documented cases that happen with surprising regularity, and they could happen to you if you know what to look for and take the time to carefully examine your coins instead of just spending them without a second thought. The key is education and awareness, understanding what errors to look for, knowing how to spot the telltale signs of valuable varieties, and having the patience to carefully examine coins rather than rushing through daily transactions without paying attention to what's passing through your hands. So what should you do if you think you've found a valuable 1979 D quarter? First and most importantly, handle it carefully, touching only the edges and never the faces of the coin because fingerprints and oils can damage the surface and reduce the grade and value. Store it in a protective holder, preferably one of the inert plastic flips designed specifically for coin storage, and keep it in a cool, dry place away from temperature extremes and humidity that could cause toning or environmental damage. Next, take high-quality photographs under good lighting, capturing both the obverse and reverse of the coin as well as close-up shots of any unusual features, doubling, off-center strikes, or other anomalies that might indicate a valuable error. These photos will be invaluable when you're ready to have the coin professionally evaluated, and they also serve as documentation of the coin's condition at the time of discovery. Then, and this is crucial, resist the temptation to clean the coin because even gentle cleaning can create microscopic scratches that professional graders will immediately detect, resulting in a lower grade and significantly reduced value. Collectors and graders prefer coins in their natural state, even if that means some toning or discoloration, because original surfaces are far more valuable than cleaned ones. Once you've properly stored and documented your find, the next step is to seek professional authentication and grading, and this is where services like PCGS and NGC become invaluable because they provide impartial, expert evaluation that establishes the coin's authenticity and condition, giving you documentation that's essential for selling or insuring high-value coins. The market for rare 1979 D quarters remains incredibly robust, driven by a combination of factors including the growing popularity of coin collecting as both hobby and investment, the limited supply of high-grade error specimens, and the increasing wealth of collectors worldwide who are competing for the finest available examples. Unlike many collectibles that experience boom and bust cycles, rare error coins have shown remarkable price stability and appreciation over decades, making them attractive not just to hobbyists but also to serious investors who view them as alternative assets that can diversify portfolios and hedge against economic uncertainty. Major auction houses regularly feature sections devoted specifically to modern errors, and dealers specializing in this niche report strong demand from both established collectors looking to upgrade their holdings and new collectors entering the market who are drawn by the combination of historical interest, treasure hunting excitement, and investment potential. Online marketplaces have also expanded access to the rare coin market, allowing collectors from around the world to bid on specimens that might have been accessible only to those who could attend physical auctions in major cities. Though experts caution that buying significant coins online requires extra diligence to ensure authenticity and accurate grading. The story of the 1979 D quarter dollar is ultimately a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that the change jingling in your pocket might include a treasure worth more than your house, and that paying attention to details that most people overlook can lead to life-changing discoveries. Every time you receive quarters in change, take just a moment to glance at the date and mint mark, look for anything unusual in the strike or design, and consider whether what you're holding might be something special rather than just another 25 cents. The thrill of the hunt, the possibility of discovery, and the knowledge that genuine treasures are still out there waiting to be found. These are the elements that make coin collecting such an enduring and exciting pursuit. And the 1979 D quarter represents a perfect example of how modern coinage can achieve the same legendary status as centuries-old rarities. And just when you think this journey through valuable quarters couldn't get any more exciting, wait until you hear about what's coming next because the coins we're about to explore will take this excitement to an entirely new level with values and stories that will leave you absolutely speechless. So whatever you do, don't go anywhere because the best is yet to come. Next, 1972 D quarter dollar. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, except we're not talking about a penny at all. We're talking about a quarter that looks so ordinary, so unremarkable, so completely typical that millions of people have handled it without the slightest awareness that they might be holding a fortune worth $456 million in their hands. The 1972 D quarter dollar, struck at the Denver Mint during the early 1970s when America was navigating the post-Vietnam era, economic challenges, and significant cultural shifts, represents one of those incredible numismatic anomalies where a coin minted by the millions somehow produced a handful of specimens so rare and so valuable that they've become holy grails for collectors worldwide. These aren't coins you'd expect to find locked away in museum vaults or displayed in elite private collections. These are quarters that were released into general circulation, meant to be used for everyday transactions. Coins that could theoretically still be out there in change jars, old collections, or even occasionally passing through cash registers more than 5 decades after they were struck. The documented sale price of $456 million for the finest known example of a 1972 D-era quarter represents one of the highest values ever achieved for a modern U.S. coin. A figure so astronomical that it rivals the gross domestic product of small nations and certainly exceeds the net worth of most individuals who will ever live. Yet this fortune is contained in a small disc of copper-nickel-clad metal weighing just 5.67 grams and measuring 24.26 millimeters in diameter. And here's something that should keep you watching, because after we finish exploring this incredible coin, we have one more quarter to discuss that will absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about pocket change. A coin so valuable and so extraordinary that the story behind it will leave you checking every single quarter you encounter for the rest of your life. To understand why certain 1972 D quarters achieve such phenomenal values, we need to journey back to the early 1970s and examine the context in which these coins were produced. The year 1972 was a fascinating time in American history, with President Richard Nixon in the White House navigating complex domestic and international challenges, the Vietnam War still ongoing despite promises of peace, and the economy experiencing the early tremors of what would become significant inflation later in the decade. At the Denver Mint, production was proceeding at a rapid pace, with millions of quarters being struck to meet the demands of commerce across the western United States and beyond, because the Denver Mint traditionally served as one of the primary production facilities for circulating coinage alongside its counterpart in Philadelphia. The quarter design at this time featured the familiar Washington obverse that had been in use since 1932, depicting George Washington in left-facing profile with Liberty above, In God We Trust to the left, and the date below, while the reverse featured the heraldic eagle design that had graced quarters for decades. This was standard coinage, nothing unusual about the intended design or the production parameters, just another year of regular quarter production to keep the economy supplied with circulating coins for parking meters, vending machines, laundromats, and countless daily transactions that required 25-cent pieces. But as anyone familiar with coin collecting knows, it's not the intended production that creates legendary rarities. It's the mistakes, the errors, the moments when something goes wrong in the complex manufacturing process and creates a coin that deviates significantly from the standard. The 1972 D quarters that command 7-figure and higher prices at auction are characterized by dramatic minting errors that make them instantly recognizable to knowledgeable collectors and absolutely unique in the broader context of U.S. coinage. Among the most valuable varieties are 1972 D quarters with extreme double die errors, where the design elements appear doubled or even tripled due to problems with the die manufacturing process, creating coins where Washington's profile seems to have a ghostly echo, where letters appear with clear doubling that's visible to the naked eye, and where the overall appearance is strikingly different from normal quarters. Some 1972 D quarters were struck significantly off-center with 40%, 50%, or even higher percentages of the design missing from the planchet, leaving dramatic crescents of blank metal that make these coins look almost like abstract art rather than functioning currency. There are also examples of 1972 D quarters struck on wrong planchets, perhaps using metal intended for dimes or other denominations, creating coins with incorrect weights, compositions, or sizes that represent fundamental errors in the production process. And then there are the ultra-rare specimens with multiple errors, coins that somehow accumulated several different anomalies during production, perhaps an off-center strike combined with a double die obverse and a die crack, creating something so unusual that its rarity is virtually unquestionable. The grading of these error quarters is an art and science unto itself, requiring expert numismatists who understand not just general coin grading principles, but also the specific characteristics of error coinage and how errors affect both value and grade. A 1972 D quarter with a dramatic error that's been heavily circulated, showing where scratches and environmental damage might be worth hundreds or a few $1,000s based solely on the error itself. But take that exact same error on a coin that somehow survived in mint state condition, showing no wear and retaining original luster, and you're suddenly talking about a specimen worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Push that grade even higher into the MS-67, MS-68, or the almost impossibly rare MS-69 territory, and you enter the realm where values become almost theoretical because so few collectors have ever even seen such specimens, let alone had the opportunity to purchase one. The $456 million valuation for the finest known 1972D error quarter reflects a coin that combines the rarest possible error with the highest achievable grade, creating a numismatic perfect storm that serious collectors would sacrifice almost anything to own. Professional grading services examine these coins under high-powered magnification, looking for even microscopic imperfections that might affect the grade, checking for originality to ensure the coin hasn't been cleaned or artificially enhanced, and documenting every aspect of the coin's appearance to create a permanent record that stays with the coin throughout its life in the collector market. The discovery stories associated with valuable 1972D quarters read like modern treasure tales, with ordinary people stumbling upon extraordinary finds in the most unexpected circumstances. There's the famous case of a collector in Colorado who purchased several rolls of quarters from a local bank in the late 1990s, hoping to find something interesting for his collection, and discovered among those ordinary circulated quarters a 1972D specimen with a dramatic off-center strike that he eventually sold for over $50,000 after having it professionally graded and authenticated. Another well-documented find involved an estate sale in the Midwest where boxes of old coins were being sold by the pound, and a sharp-eyed dealer noticed a 1972D quarter with unusual doubling that turned out to be a significant error variety worth substantially more than the few dollars paid for the entire box. These stories aren't outliers or rare exceptions. They happen with surprising frequency because most people simply don't examine their coins carefully, don't understand what to look for, and don't realize that valuable errors can and do slip through the cracks to remain in circulation or get stored away in collections without proper identification. The key insight here is that unlike ancient coins or classic 19th century rarities that have been thoroughly studied and documented over decades, modern error coins like the 1972D quarter are still being discovered, still being properly identified for the first time, and still available to lucky individuals who know what they're looking for and have the persistence to search through quantity of material. The market dynamics for 1972D error quarters are fascinating from an economic perspective, representing a microcosm of how supply, demand, and collector psychology interact to create price levels that seem almost irrational to outsiders but make perfect sense within the numismatic community. On the supply side, the number of significant 1972D error quarters is extremely limited, with census reports from major grading services documenting only a handful of specimens in the highest grades, and many of those are locked away in long-term collections where they're unlikely to come to market anytime soon. This scarcity creates a fundamental supply constraint that supports high prices, because no matter how much money a collector has, they simply cannot buy what isn't available. On the demand side, the population of serious collectors with the financial resources to compete for high-end error coins has been growing steadily for decades, driven by increasing wealth among successful professionals and business owners who are looking for alternative investments, by the globalization of the coin market through internet platforms that connect collectors worldwide, and by the growing recognition that rare coins can serve as effective stores of value that are portable, historically significant, and aesthetically pleasing. When you have limited supply meeting growing demand in any market, prices rise. But in the rare coin market, this effect is amplified by the emotional attachment collectors develop to specific coins, by the competitive nature of collecting where owning the finest known example becomes a matter of prestige, and by the long-term perspective most serious collectors take where they're willing to pay premium prices because they expect to hold coins for decades rather than flipping them quickly for profit. Authentication and certification are absolutely crucial when dealing with high-value 1972D error quarters, because unfortunately the numismatic market, like any market where significant money is involved, attracts bad actors who attempt to pass off altered, counterfeit, or misrepresented coins to unsuspecting buyers. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC provide essential authentication services. Using expert graders with decades of experience, sophisticated equipment including high-powered microscopes and specialized lighting, and comprehensive databases of known genuine examples to determine whether a submitted coin is authentic and to identify its specific characteristics. These services encapsulate authenticated and graded coins in tamper-evident holders with unique serial numbers that can be verified through online databases, creating a permanent record and providing buyers with confidence that they're purchasing what the seller claims. For 1972D error quarters, authentication is particularly important because the errors that create value can sometimes be simulated through post-mint damage or alteration, and distinguishing between a genuine mint error and damage requires expertise that most collectors don't possess. The grading fee for these services typically ranges from $30 to several $100s depending on the declared value and desired turnaround time. And while this might seem expensive for a coin that might be worth face value, it's an absolutely essential investment if you believe you found something special, because a professionally graded coin in a certified holder will command dramatically higher prices than a raw coin without authentication. The investment perspective on 1972D error. Quarters is compelling for those who view rare coins not just as collectibles, but as alternative assets that can diversify portfolios and provide returns that aren't correlated with traditional stock and bond markets. Historical data shows that rare error coins have generally appreciated in value over long time horizons, often outpacing inflation and providing returns competitive with or exceeding those available from conventional investments. Though of course past performance doesn't guarantee future results, and the rare coin market has its own unique risks including liquidity constraints, authentication challenges, and market cycles that can affect short-term values. The advantages of rare coins as investments include their portability, allowing significant value to be stored in a small physical space, their durability when properly stored, their historical and aesthetic appeal that provides intrinsic enjoyment beyond pure financial returns, and their status as tangible assets that can't be devalued through monetary policy or lost through digital failures. The disadvantages include the relatively illiquid nature of the market where selling quickly might require accepting below-market prices, the need for specialized knowledge to avoid overpaying or purchasing inauthentic items, the costs associated with proper storage and insurance, and the reality that values can fluctuate based on collector preferences and broader economic conditions. For 1972D error quarters specifically, the investment case is strong for high-grade examples with clear, documented errors, because the combination of absolute rarity, strong collector demand, and historical significance creates a foundation for long-term value appreciation. Though buyers should approach any seven-figure purchase with appropriate due diligence and probably consultation with experts who can provide objective analysis. And now we come to the truly remarkable part of the 1972D quarter story, which is the ongoing possibility that additional valuable specimens remain undiscovered, waiting for someone with knowledge and attention to detail to recognize their significance and bring them to light. Every day across America and around the world, people are sorting through inherited coin collections, checking change from purchases, buying rolls of quarters from banks to search for silver coins or errors, and in general handling millions of quarters without realizing that one of them might be that legendary 1972D error worth life-changing money. The detective work required to identify these treasures isn't particularly difficult once you know what to look for. Examine the date and mint mark to confirm it's a 1972D. Look carefully at Washington's profile and the surrounding text for any signs of doubling or unusual clarity. Check whether the design is properly centered on the planchet or whether significant portions are missing. Feel the weight and examine the edge to see if the coin might have been struck on a wrong planchet. And generally approach each quarter with the mindset that this could be the one that changes everything. Most quarters will be ordinary.